Reality check. The bloom is off the rose for the Steve Cohen era.
What?
The bloom is off the rose for the Steve Cohen era. Listen, I understand the guy's got a ton of money, but what we need to, I think, reevaluate, not saying that he can't get decent at some point, but I got a question for you. What has Steve Cohen actually done well? And before you answer, because I know you're going to disagree with this, let me just take everybody on a little bit of a ride here. So when he was introduced November 10th, 2020, he dropped a 3 to 5 year window in terms of the World Series. Right now, they're nowhere near it. They don't even have a rotation next season, number one.
I'd say, come on, that's not fair. They don't have a rotation next season.
They don't. They have one guy.
They can't sign anybody right now. They traded away guys. Anyway, that's not a good one. What else you got?
It might not be a good one for you, but they won 75 games.
Would you wake up on the wrong side of the bed this morning
Right.
ripping Steve Cohen?
Number one. Yeah. Number two, and this is all part of the stew that he's cooking up here. He's hired 4 general managers, by the way, Porter, Scott, Sandy Back, and Epler, and none of them has been particularly good. He allowed, and this is where we get messy, his borderline Hall of Fame manager to be handcuffed by his general manager, who you like a whole hell of a lot more than me,
right,
by stuffing a basic scrub down his throat and forcing him to play Vogelback. Yeah.
How do you know that that's the case?
Well, I mean, if the reports are right, you think Buck's lying?
It's a big if.
Well, okay, I'm going to assume that Buck is telling us the truth.
And that story you're referring to is one from the Post.
Yep.
That Mike Puma said sources told him that Buck Showalter was forced to play Daniel Vogelback.
Correct.
Right? Okay, and where do you think that Puma might have gotten it from? Like, if you read the article, it gives you a feel.
Probably Buck.
Okay.
You think Buck would lie about that? Why would Buck Showalter lie about that? He has no motivation to lie about that.
What are you talking about? He just got fired. He's pissed off.
Yeah, but you could bring up other things to illuminate that. I don't think that would be the biggest thing that Buck would reach for.
Put it this way. It is, to my understanding, and this goes back to, way before, this was even a thing, like prior to this year, I was told that the lineups are not a reflection of the front office.
Okay.
The manager's allowed to do what he wants. Now, are you telling me that Buck didn't think Vogelback's a good player? I could believe that. Like, I'm sure nobody who's ever watched baseball in their life, aside from looking at some data, thinks that Daniel Vogelback's a good baseball player, because he's not. Like, the facts are he can't play baseball. Could he get on base occasionally? Could he hit occasionally? Maybe. He's not a good baseball player. So I would think that a player like that drives Buck Showalter nuts. But it's to my understanding that is not how the Mets operate.
Okay, so then you're saying Buck lied. If Buck gave that
I wouldn't believe that story,
I would. And I would believe Buck over anybody. I would myself. Now, here's the biggest issue, too. Steve Cohen, because that's the start of the show here, why I think Steve Cohen and this aura, this bloom, this thought that he's going to be some amazing owner, let's cut the nonsense. He is now staring down a Scott Boras barrel, right, where arguably the team's greatest player ever is on the precipice of leaving. Okay? So he gave you a timeline.
Well, he's not going anywhere. He's under contract for another year.
Okay,
I don't care who his agent is.
I got that.
Nestle in, big boy, and go produce.
Think about this. The 4 things, he gave us a timeline. They're nowhere near it. He went through GMs like we go through underwear. He handcuffed a Hall of Fame, borderline Hall of Fame manager for a GM who was not proven a stock here or elsewhere. And now he's allowed this Alonso situation to possibly bubble out of control. So I would like to know from you, who is a staunch Cohen believer,
yes,
and an ardent defender of Billy Epler, why should Met fans have this view of Cohen that is as favorable as it was the day that he took over the team? Because I don't think that they should.
Well, the mistakes that you're pointing out, first of all, I've already dismissed a few of those things, but the mistakes that you're pointing out as far as the prior hires, that was under a different president with Sandy Alderson. Sandy Alderson is the one who, when Steve Cohen took over, he didn't know what was going on. He's learned here in his first few years. You're seeing the evolution of an owner who's understanding the game much better. Not the game of baseball, but how it works, the business of baseball. So Sandy Alderson is long gone. The bad hires that he made are long gone. Steve Cohen did put a 101-win team out there 1 year ago under the leadership of Billy Epler, who I think has done a good job, but he's irrelevant in this particular argument because they hired a president of baseball operations and one who universally is beloved. I mean, it seems like that's the right hire. Can the guy actually do something before we start saying that, oh, Steve Cohen's lost? Like, Stearns is a great hire by all accounts. He kept Billy Epler on, who I think made smart, gutsy moves at the trade deadline and also has a 101-win season to his resume.
Yep.
The new president decided that they want to move on from the manager, and it seems to be the right move. As a day after the guy gets fired, Buck is going out there and leaking stories that paint him in a positive way. Like, that's just distasteful. And part of the, I guarantee
it doesn't mean it's not accurate. Doesn't mean it's not accurate.
I'm saying that it's not.
But I'm saying that it is. But how do we know?
I mean, I would take my word for it personally.
And I would take mine.
But based on what?
So you're basically making Buck. You're saying Buck's lying.
I'm saying that report is not accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
But whatever.
I got you. I respect you standing by that. I can see it completely happening because Billy brought in Vogel back. On-base guy, lefty, rough, lefty, right, blah, blah, blah. So Billy's got to defend the move.
Well, do you
and Buck's looking at this guy who runs like a turtle or a tortoise, can't throw, can't do anything, and he's in the lineup every night. There's no way Buck wanted to play this guy. It was an organizational edict. I believe that. And that's a big problem.
I don't believe the Mets front office is telling Buck Showalter what players he has to put in the lineup. Same thing with Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman, where everybody was saying, oh, Boone doesn't even fill out the lineup. He comes on and says that's not true. They could give him the info, the data, the analytics, all that stuff. It may suggest that you should favor one guy over another. Ultimately, the lineup is filled out by the manager. At least that is to my understanding. Now, I could be wrong on that, but even if that's the case, I don't even care about that. You ask me why I believe in Steve Cohen.
That's the question.
You think Steve Cohen
That's the question. So why should Met fans, because I don't, view Steve Cohen the way I did, and I think many of them did. I don't want to speak for them, but to speak for myself. When he came over, I'm like, this rocket is going to the moon. It's go time.
It's year 3. And already
he took over in 2020. I know it was COVID,
right.
So 2020, 2021,
right.
2022, 2023. They're obviously going backwards. I don't think they'll be very good next year, like I didn't think they'd be very good this year. So next year is year 5.
Okay.
How is this working? Honestly,
they just hired a president of baseball operations. He's learning as we go. What do you think? How is it working? He had the highest payroll. Hey, why do you like Steve Cohen? He had the highest payroll in baseball. Fans care about that. That means something. Name me the players that he's lost that he's wanted. He re-signed Brandon Nimmo, no issue. If Zach Wheeler were here under Steve Cohen, Zach Wheeler would still be a Met.
He's not, though. I got you.
I mean, what do we go? You want to go based off of results? He had a 101-win season last year that delivered the postseason. So obviously right now, coming off a down year, sure, the next 2 to 3 years are ultimately going to define the beginning of the Steve Cohen era. I believe that right now, buy the stock when it's low. The hierarchy of Cohen, who's got the most resources as any owner in the entire sport, who has shown a willingness to win, he wants to win. His priority is winning. End of story. That's why I love him. That's why I call him King Cohen. He's smart, he's got guts, and he's got money, and he prioritizes winning. He hired a president. They have a good general manager. They have some decent players. I think they're going to get better. I mean, the reasons that you're bringing up, BT, that doesn't mean anything to me. Buck Showalter, what he's saying to Mike Puma or whatever, his camp, that means nothing. Buck is gone.
I mean, listen, the guy's been here a while, and they're going backwards. And listen, I look at it this way. Until proven otherwise, last year was the outlier. Now, by the way, meaning the 2022 season, I give everybody a chance to get their feet wet. I know he's still learning the business, not the game of baseball, but the business of baseball. I understand that. But I see a lot of holes in his game that I did not think that I would see. That's what I'm saying. And this blind conviction.
But what? Because he didn't extend Pete Alonso?
Well, I mean, listen, why didn't you learn something from the Yankees messing up the Aaron Judge stuff? Me and Tiki said 2 years ago. Listen, don't let this become a Judge situation. And I'm not even the biggest Pete Alonso fan in the world, but even I saw it 2 years ago. Give the guy, preemptively buy out some ARB, give him $155 million, make him happy. Eventually, it's going to be a great deal down the road. He didn't do it. Now we might lose him.
Well, how do you know they didn't offer him that and that he turned it down?
Well,
let me ask you something.
Mean back then or more recently?
What do you think it says about a player when he brings in Scott Boras? What do you think his motives are?
Well, it's always to get the most money.
Bingo.
Which I have no problem with.
I mean, either.
But it also tells me that it's a leverage point. I believe the hiring, I can't prove this. Right. I honestly, I can't, obviously. But I believe by hiring Boras, that to me, he can wear as many. I love New York batting gloves and
he wants the most money.
I get that, but I believe in his mind he's absolutely open to leaving. I absolutely believe that.
And by the way,
I think he's tired of the nonsense.
But what nonsense?
Well, a lot of the nonsense I think that he gets. Not all of it's nonsense. Not all of it's some of it's real.
Nimmo
and some of it's
free
deserved.
agency.
Yep.
The Mets brought him back.
Easier contract.
Well, how? Nimmo had a lot of teams after him, and the Mets had to extend to.
Yeah, but was anybody knocking down Nimmo's door for a trade? If and when the Mets trade Alonso, they will get back, 1,000% more than they'd get for Nimmo, who's the worst defensive outfielder in baseball. He's the worst.
Let's play this out.
Yes.
Pete has the year of his life, just like Aaron Judge did. He had 60-plus home runs, breaks a record. He's got Scott Boras. What do you think is going to happen? I need to quote.
Does he hit 212 or does he hit 270? I need the answer to that.
265, 63 home runs.
Okay, a massive year.
Drives at 140 runs.
Got competent first baseman.
MVP type year, whether he wins it or whatever.
Okay.
Hits free agency with Scott Boras.
Got it.
What do you think happens?
I think he's gone. I've said that for a year now.
Well, why? Why do you think he's gone?
Because I don't think
Do you think somebody's going to pay him more than Steve Cohen? They can't.
No, but there's nuance there. I put it this way. If Cohen wants to keep Pete, he's going to keep him.
Correct.
I don't think he wants to keep him as much as you do. I don't. I think
they
look at it.
But you don't even want to keep Pete.
Well, no, but I don't know the team. So at the end of the day, what I say is almost immaterial to what they do.
But you're saying for the betterment of the team, so how could you knock the owner for saying that maybe he'd want? Now, I'm not saying he is. I believe Pete Alonso will be a lifelong Met.
You've said that.
I also believe the Mets are going to do this thing the right way. And by the way, both parties at this point should be doing the right thing. Let it play out. Pete is 1 year away from hitting free agency. He should.
Yep.
And go out there and have a big year and then have the market go up. And the Mets should let it play out and then say, okay, whatever you get on the open market, we're going to pay you whatever your value is if they want him. Now, if he wants to go elsewhere, that's on him. But if the Mets want him back, they will offer the most money, and I believe he'll take it.
All right. BT and Sal on the Fan, 877-337-6666 inside of our Town Fair Tire studio. Friends at Town Fair remind you that you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Couple of cracks in the Cohen Met base, I see. Ray's up in the Bronx. What's going on, Ray? How are you?
Hey, gentlemen, how's everything going?
Hey, buddy.
What's up, Ray?
First of all, I'm a diehard Mets fan. I grew up in everything with them. Cohen, if he really wanted to keep Pete, he would have done the deal already. This guy Stern, I don't think he wants him. I really believe they will trade Alonso in this offseason. He's going to be gone. Chicago wants him bad. So I could see him going there. And that's why he hired Boras. He'll be a free agent somewhere else, but I don't see him being as a Met as much as I want him.
Okay, so Ray, let me ask you this. Would that destroy you? Because I'm hearing from some Met fans, which I think is lunacy, although I do respect it, but I think that you're a little misguided by the emotions of it, which, again, I get. I'm hearing Met fans like, if he's not on the team next year, I'll never go to another Mets game. Yeah, you will. When they're in a position to maybe win a championship, you'll be back.
Let me tell you, fans are going to speak their emotions and all that. We all do. But they're all going to stay.
Yep.
I will always be a Mets fan. Will I be pissed off and everything that they let him go? Yes. I thought it was stupid of letting go of Wheeler and a couple other guys.
But that's a different owner. That's a different owner.
No,
hey, the same owner, by the way, let DeGrom go. How'd that work out?
I agree with you. I'm not saying that. DeGrom thing actually worked out that he ended up getting hurt. I didn't want him to go.
Oh, yeah. Shockingly, he got hurt. I mean, there's a reason why Steve Cohen and Billy Epler wouldn't go to the lengths that the Rangers did, because they knew DeGrom has been damaged goods. He's always getting hurt. So they let him go. DeGrom's one of the best pitchers in the history of the franchise. You survived, didn't you? And it was the right move to let him go. Now, by the way, they're not trading Pete Alonso. They're not even going to let him go. If they're not going to trade him, they're likely going to let this thing play out, okay? When they do, if Pete Alonso goes out there and has a monster year, you don't think Steve Cohen is going to do the same thing he did with Diaz or with Brandon Nimmo? Why not? Based on what?
Because I'm not as convinced about that. Listen, I think when you look at Pete, yeah, and you have to factor this in. The body type, the lack of the trend in baseball, powerful first basemen, they're not getting the money that they used to. They're just not. I mean, I have the numbers. I know you know them. I'm saying out there, I just take my word on that. If you call up and want to challenge me, I have the numbers in front of me. You can. I think there's a shift in emphasis on that. And I really, again, I'm not going to use the word toxic, and you never did either, but I just...
Well, no, I used the word,
well, I
but
mean,
I
I'm
didn't
saying
say
specific to him.
Yeah.
I
didn't say he.
No, I know. Absolutely. No, I got you on that for sure. But I don't think he's nearly as revered in the clubhouse as some Met fans want to think, and I think that he's viewed as expendable.
Well, he's not.
Here's
by the way,
he should be expendable. He's a slow-footed, average fielding, first baseman who's not going to age well. I'm sorry.
Well, let me ask you something. Of the the people on this team, who do you think could and should be the leaders of this team in the clubhouse?
I think if Nimmo was a little bit better, and I do like Nimmo. I know, but I got to go through the process because my answer is there are no leaders, and which is the big issue. But I think it could be Nimmo if he was like 10, 15% better. Lindor, in terms of the energy and that day-to-day exuberance, that's certainly an aspect of leadership. In terms of playing every day, Lindor does as well. Prolific power. Pete should be a leader, but I don't think they have one. Well, the catcher's 21 years old.
But that's the point. So Pete should be that guy.
And he's not.
Been here. He's embraced the city. Yep. He goes out there and posts. He produces. It's either Pete or Lindor should be based on their baseball acumen, how long they've been in the game, all that stuff.
Yeah.
He's not. That should tell you something. The fact that his teammates don't defend him every time he gets drilled, that should tell you something. Now, I'm not saying that tells you he's a bad guy, but it tells you maybe how he's viewed in that clubhouse. And by the way, that's not even an issue here. The issue is, I believe, to be the issue where Pete values himself versus where the Mets value Pete. Okay?
Yeah,
so we've always used this comparison. Use common sense. If I think the comp is Matt Olson, like who do you think's a better player, Pete Alonso or Matt Olson?
It's not even close, Matt Olson.
Okay. And
in my opinion.
And Matt Olson, it's close, but let's just say Matt Olson, especially off of this year.
Okay.
If Matt Olson is getting paid, what is it, 168?
168, yep.
Okay. And Aaron Judge is getting paid over $300 million, right? Pete thinks he's more toward Judge.
Yep.
The Mets and almost everybody else thinks he's more toward Matt Olson. So where's the sweet spot? Is it $200 million? Is it $220? That's probably what you're looking at. I believe Pete, going with Boris, thinks that he might be able to get $300 million.
And I don't begrudge him for that. Reality's going to hit very hard.
Right.
But I don't begrudge him chase every penny.
I got it. That's fine. But in the end, the Mets have the most money. Steve Cohen is the richest owner. If he goes out there and dominates next season the way Aaron Judge did, stays healthy, hits 270, hits over 50, maybe 60 or whatever it is, the Mets are going to have to pay him.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. Now, I am prepared. Now, I'm also not a Mets fan, so you guys know this. There's no emotion except the fact that I want both teams to do well, and I love baseball, and I think I know baseball. And it's probably an oversimplification of this, but to me, he's been here over half a decade. They've had one good season. In my mind, and maybe this is too callous, I'm not lumping this all at his doorstep. Clearly, he's been one of the only assets. But if you can lose regularly with him, maybe you can win regularly without him. Like, I hear Evan, you Evan more than you. Like, don't tell me that it is illogical to think about what the Mets could be without Pete Alonso. And then I heard this with Evan and Tiki yesterday. And Tiki's more in line with me. Evan's saying, you'll never get a first baseman who's good. Obviously, that's not the point. You don't you don't try to find a first baseman that replicates what Alonso can do because there's nobody out there that's available. But what you do is you take the trades you get back, you take the money you save, you disperse it around the rest of the roster, and I don't know, you might actually have a good team. How people don't see that is beyond me.
Well, that's a totally...
there's a path to being good without Pete Alonso.
Agreed, but that's a totally different argument than knocking the owner, which you started the show by doing because of the way they've handled Pete Alonso, where I see it as they've handled this the exact right way. The Mets, because of King Cohen, are in a position of power. They can let this play out. Now, it gets to this point, if I'm the player, I'm letting it play out as well. But they don't have to do what the Braves did because they have money. You don't need to extend Alonso for the money that he wants 2 years ahead of time. You could just let it play out, let him earn it, see what the market says his value is.
Yeah.
He thinks it's 3. We think it's 180 or 2, whatever it is that the Mets think. I have no idea what the numbers are. Let's see what the market says. And then if the market says it's 220, it's 250, then Steve Cohen and the Mets can decide if they feel it's worth it. If they don't, guess what? They'll reinvest the money elsewhere, just like they did with Jacob deGrom. If they do think it's worth it, guess what? They're going to bring him back, just like they did with Brandon Nimmo. The Mets are in a position of power because of King Cohen.
All right, 877-337-6666. BT and Sal on the Fan here. If you just tuned in, there's a lot of things, and we'll get more calls coming up, obviously, that I see with the Cohen Mets that lead me to say, and I said this first thing I said, balloons off the rose. There's just, I don't know, it's a little disjointed, a little too disjointed for me. It started great. The press conference was galvanizing. You've had one really good year. Let's not make stuff up. Let's not revise history. The Mets have a lot of work to do. and their owners made some mistakes. Not that he can't correct them, but let's not overstate what he's been so far. I know he's got money. Let's get some wins. 877-337-6666. BT and Sal on the Fan.